So we can start now. We have our keynote panel. Look at them. Historical photo. And we will start with the Curro and then Paris-Longchamp. So you all know Brian Kavanagh, who will open the session and chair it. With Derek McGrath will follow. And then Olivier Deloy and Fabrice Favetobon, our new Director of Marketing. So gentlemen, up to you and good luck.
Thank you, Louis. And thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here today. It's a great honour to be here today, and particularly to be on the podium with Paris-Longchamp, one of the world's truly great racecourses. I'd like to take the opportunity to present to you on probably the most exciting development in Irish racing in many years, and that's the redevelopment of the headquarters of racing in Ireland, the Curra Racecourse. I'll speak briefly at the start about the context of this redevelopment, perhaps, and then I'll hand over to my colleague Derek McGrath, who's the Chief Executive of the Curra Racecourse, who might go into a bit more detail about the project itself. So it's a great honour to be here, and particularly on ARC Weekend. Just to give some context, perhaps briefly, just to explain to the audience a bit about the industry in Ireland, the racing and breeding industry, and a little bit about our sector. Horse Racing Ireland recently commissioned Deloitte, management consultants from Manchester in the UK, to provide an independent assessment of the economic value of the industry in Ireland. And I have to say we were very pleased with the outcome of that study. I'll show you a few of the findings. But basically there were two key findings. They found a very significant rural industry in Ireland with a reach throughout the country. That map shows the red dots on the left show the location of our race courses. And then, as you can see, breeders and trainers located in every county in our country. So it showed, a strong industry with a strong rural regional reach. In our country, a lot of the concern is about the development of the city in Dublin, and the international investment in our country goes into the city. So this is an industry which provides international investment around the country. It also showed that, while people tend to focus on the sport of kings and the big operations and the Coolmores and the Darleys of this world, 92% of breeders in Ireland have less than 5 mares. So again, it's a solid rural-based industry. The second message to come out of the study was the fact that from these rural routes and these countryside routes, there was a major global success story for Ireland. And the study showed the global reach of our industry, particularly our breeding industry. And this was illustrated probably never better than over the weekend when we had Irish bred winners at Santa Anita, at Shatin, at Randwick, at Newmarket, and of course here at Shanty. And these successes are very important. I know Louis is going to give out to me now.
You have to pay for advertisement.
The facts speak for themselves, Louis. But the study was very, very reassuring in that respect in terms of showing the global reach. So quickly moving through a couple of key highlight studies. It showed that the industry itself in Ireland had an economic impact each year of €1.84 billion. That's the green bubble on the right-hand side, which again is a significant figure for a small country such as Ireland. It showed that our industry supported 28,900 full-time jobs, 9,500 jobs in the core industry, 5,700 jobs in directly related industries such as veterinary, such as hospitality, such as other equine-related employments, 6,000 jobs in the betting industry, and an impact on 7,700 secondary jobs. So again, significant figures for a variety of different purposes. One slide which Deloitte's produced, perhaps illustrated in more ways than any other, the importance of the industry in Ireland. It showed that for every 10,000 people in the country, Ireland had 50 thoroughbreds. That was more than 10 times the ratio of France, or 10 times the ratio of Britain, more than 20 times the ratio of the USA. So in a simple illustration, it gives a show of how important the horse industry is to Ireland. A couple of other slides from the Deloitte report show that 25% of the people in Ireland were interested in horse racing. That's up from 22% in 2010. And it showed in sporting terms, second only to Gaelic football, horse racing was the best attended sport in the country in Ireland. So The study is very important, and we will use it a lot to inform policy decisions as we go forward. So that's the context within our industry. Bringing it back to the subject at hand today, it's the Curragh Racecourse. Sorry, just one last slide before I show that. Deloitte showed that in terms of value of horses sold, Ireland was the second highest country in the world in terms of the value of its bloodstock sold. Irish horses, as you know, are sold through sales in France, through sales in the United States on occasions, and in particular through sales in Great Britain. So third highest in terms of volume, second highest in terms of value. At the heart of that industry in Ireland is the Curragh. The Curragh is as I said earlier, it's the home of horse racing in Ireland. It's a public training centre. There are 45 trainers licensed to train in the Curragh. They train 1,200 horses. Famous names such as Dermot Weld, John Ox train on the Curragh. The Curragh is Ireland's premier racetrack. It's the home of all of Ireland's classic races. It stages flat racing only. It stages 60% of Ireland's pattern races, and 10 out of 12 Group 1 races run in Ireland are staged at the Curragh. Looking at the presentation for today, it's amazing to think that 1 out of every 3 Group 1 races that are run in Europe are run either at Longchamp or the Curragh each year. 27 out of 85 Group 1 races. The Curragh is very famous for its track. 2 quotes from famous trainers there. Aidan, who's a regular supporter of the Curragh. And what's come through this year very much is the quality of the racetrack in the Curragh. It's a 2-mile horseshoe track. It has sweeping bends. It has a 700-metre straight. Generally, the best horse will win a race at the Curragh. There's very few unlucky stories. It can take field sizes of up to 30 runners on the straight track. So, very versatile, very high-quality track. But the problem with the Curragh down through the years was the facilities at the Curragh did not match the track. The Curragh was last redeveloped really in 1962. And since then, there's been some bits and pieces of work done, but no major redevelopment, and certainly no development at all at the Curragh in the last 20 years. There were plans for a major redevelopment of the Curragh in 2007, but that was aborted due to the economic crash. I think perhaps fortunately in some ways, because it was a very extravagant development plan. So over the last 3 or 4 years, a new company was established to redevelop the Curragh. That company is a public-private partnership. It is owned 1/3 by Horse Racing Ireland, 1/3 by the Irish Turf Club, who previously owned the Curragh Racecourse, and 1/3 by private investors. So we've got significant support from within the industry, from most of the major players in the Irish and global bloodstock industry, who've actually invested in this company, which will redevelop the Curragh Racecourse. And that has resulted in, as I said, a new company, which will work towards a 72 million redevelopment of the Curragh Racecourse, obviously with an iconic stand, which will make a statement about the industry in Ireland. As you see, the 6 founder investors there are His Highness the Aga Khan, prominent national hunt owner JP McManus, Godolphin and Sheikh Mohammed through his Darley operation, Derenstan Stud, Sheikh Hamdan, Moidlair Stud Farm, who are a major owner, a Swiss-based owner of bloodstock in Ireland, and the Coolmore Partners. To this date, they each have put €5 million into the redevelopment of the Curragh, and they sit as members of the board alongside Horse Racing Ireland and the Turf Club. It's a unique situation, perhaps, certainly for a racecourse in Ireland and perhaps for a racecourse worldwide. Obviously, the voting structure of that company is such that the majority is held by the racing authorities, and there are provisions within the constitution of the company in relation to voting majorities and things like that. 2 things which perhaps I should note to you, and we can discuss maybe a little bit through Derek's presentation. We took a decision, somewhat controversial, perhaps, to continue racing during the construction period. The construction period will conclude in December of next year, and we have maintained racing in the Curragh over the season just finished and for next year, working with temporary facilities, which caused some difficulties at certain times, but it reflected the importance of the Curragh to the Irish flat racing programme. And we recruited a new management team to both develop and run the Curragh Racecourse. And that's headed up by Derek McGrath, who will speak after me, who came with a distinguished career behind him as Chief Executive of European Rugby, the company responsible for developing the world-famous Heineken Cup tournament Derek has spoken to the conference before. So in the context of my country, obviously the racing and breeding industry is an important industry. In the context of that industry, the Curragh is the most important part of the industry. Any of you who have been there will recognise that its facilities have not matched the quality of the track or the quality of the racing, or indeed the quality of its competitor racecourses. And I'm glad to say, after a number of years of stalled redevelopment, we're now on track to open a brand shining new Curragh in the spring of 2019. So that's the context of our development. Maybe I'll ask Derek to pick up now and talk about the detail of it.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you, and thank you for the opportunity to discuss our project with you. As Brian has mentioned, the importance of the track, just as I work out my technology here, thank you. The importance of the Curragh to Irish racing and hopefully also to international racing is one that we're very conscious of. And while this project is a long time coming, there is huge passion for change. Nonetheless, we're not leaving our history behind us. And literally, as we've been demolishing buildings that are embedded from 1852 and 1952, two stands that are literally coming down slowly. But we're not going to leave them behind. We are literally deconstructing one aspect of the 1852 viewing stand, which was constructed at a time that Queen Victoria was due to visit Ireland, and unfortunately never quite made it to the Curragh. But we have this history to bring with us, which reflects on very well on our attitude to how we're going to retain the heritage, the tradition, and the history of our story at the Curragh. A little bit then about the concept of the design and what we're trying to change and what we're trying to attempt to bring to the Curragh. A lot of it is about making it more comfortable, more attractive, and hopefully people will come and stay a lot longer. We're bringing more depth, literally, by changing the entrance, which would normally be on the east side. I haven't got a pointer, but normally on the east side, we're going to bring people in from the north at the back. We're putting the parade ring in behind the stand to give some protection and comfort from the prevailing winds, which come right over the new iconic signature roof, which will clearly be in the landscape, one that's going to be seen from a long distance. In terms of the users, and I just want to take you through a little bit of video, if that's possible, to give you an impression of what we've been doing in the last, or the first phase, which is the demolition. I'm just going to talk you through a little bit of what we've been doing since we received planning in the end of 2016. We began demolishing in February of this year, and that process that you're seeing now really runs up to about June, just before the valve. And in terms of change, you can imagine people coming racing, they began to go racing, we began to see something which they've been waiting for a long time. In terms of how we approached this, there was a very detailed, because of our funding, public procurement process which had to go through. So that's added a lot of complication in the way that we're appointing our contractors and our subcontractors. And that has clearly been something that's been very important in our process. As Brian mentioned, the key decision to stay racing at the Curragh has meant that we've not only had to demolish, but also we had to provide zones where we could then build a temporary facility alongside the demolition that you're seeing here. Another zone of activity that we had going on the site was the refurbishment of one half of our stable yard, which we had ready in time for racing in May. So a lot of activity that's going on, and you can see elements being ripped off the stands, which, you know, we have to be very careful. We've got a live training site centre that's right beside us. We've got neighbours who are in the industry, trainers and breeders. You're seeing here pictures of the first part of the stable yard refurb, which was effectively to restore an old yard to its former glory, and that was achieved just in time for racing. Everything that we're doing is to try and recognise that we want to bring everything with us and in keeping with the needs of the industry. This is the piece of history that I mentioned, and This is the piece that was built in 1852, and we've literally deconstructed it and reconstructed it at a more northeastern side of the site. So quite a complex part, but that's going to provide part of our story. We'll incorporate that for winning connections and to tell our story at the visitor centre. You're seeing now some of the images of the temporary site that we built this year to meet the needs of publics, our media, corporate, and our owners. And the facilities were very good quality. There's no doubt that we were restricted. Our capacity was reduced to 6,000, so as Brian mentioned, it was controversial at some level that we would stay. But in terms of what it, I suppose, forced us to do in some ways was to really interact with all of our stakeholders at every level of the sport, from valet to owner. We really needed to understand what was important for them. The track itself, as Brian mentioned, it is so precious to our sport and to the Curragh. Untouched, protected throughout. In our selection of all of our contractors, it's something that we emphasise. We look for contractors who are used to working in hospitals or in hotels, in live sites, so that they can appreciate the challenges that we have. That Dermot Weld is just about to bring his third string down for the morning, so you need to stop that bit of work so we can make sure we're not going to disturb, as a good example. You're now crossing the site and we're now looking towards the stable yard, and that's the third zone of activity, which now is just being reopened now. We're going to begin to do the last phase of work on that, so that we can get ready for racing again in May of next year. It really has been a challenge in terms of the racing, for racing public. There's probably been a 50% split in terms of should we stay or should we go in terms of racing. But for a business, it's been a fabulous opportunity to really break down the business. And we know we've got to change a lot of things at the Curragh to make it a success and to do justice to what is a fabulous facility matched with a fabulous track. But if we're going to succeed, we have to achieve an awful lot more than that. Just quickly then describe you, take you through the building very quickly in terms of its design and makeup. It's a 4-level structure. What you're seeing at the very top, obviously the roof, but below that then lots of glass to really help viewing. And then you see 3rd level, but the first level, the ground level, isn't visible at this point. This structure is going to be of the order of 10,500 square meters. It replaces 2 stands, which between them occupied 13.5 meters squared. It's designed again with comfort in mind. It's designed again with the everyday racegoer in mind. 6,000 is the capacity, and we're looking to make that experience the most comfortable, with the ability then to expand out to 30,000 for the bigger days. The entrance is going to be a very important part. So we're coming in from a northern aspect. Parking is going to be much closer. When we arrive in, we're going to have a museum on the right-hand side, a bistro on the left, playground on that side as well. Immediate impact will be the parade ring in front of me, the iconic roof, and then the Curragh. So we're getting a much bigger impact when we arrive at the Curragh. And in the inclement conditions, I can turn right, walk in under the canopy, and arrive into the facility itself. And arriving in at level 1, because of the incline of the land, I'll go down into the grand hall area where I'll have food stations, coffee stations, betting, bars, etc. Or I'll go upstairs to lounges, to suites, to restaurants and further bars. Quickly then, just to take you through some of the design, and in selecting our partner for construction, we're looking for somebody who has a lot of experience in sports stadia, but also hotel experience. So every fit out is going to be very high spec, and every fit out is going to be different. This is a good example of a public bar that's very well positioned down towards the first furlong, that direction of the stand, so that we can really have great viewing covered by the stand. We're going to have 2 panoramic restaurants with balconies to allow viewing of the parade ring area. And then we're also got hospitality suites, which will provide great viewing of racing at 2 levels and 2 sizes. One is 30-person suite and the other is 16-person suite. And that's, again, at very, very high spec in order to really impact on our audiences. But also, one of the things that I see as I go around other race courses and watch is the need to cater for all interests, and that's something that's very much top of mind of our thinking. Another piece of video, if that's okay, to show you now just the development of the build and the extension, just to give you some of an understanding of how we're approaching our build and some of the timelines that are important to us, as in the next 15 months we'll be racing again. So the site itself, CISC are the appointed builders that have just come on site at the end of our racing season, which was September 10, the Champions Weekend. CISC arrived in literally on the Monday and began building their compound, putting their hoarding in place, and they're very focused on the objective, which is to provide a facility that is going to look like the best sports stadia, but is also going to be of the nature of a top quality hotel. And they've come with a lot of experience. They've just literally finished a project in the south of Ireland, Cork Stadium, and that's going to really allow the same team to come and begin the same work. It's not a dissimilar build. One of the things that CISC are really focused on is the fact that as we go to the turn of the year, and you can see the timeline at the top, we're now getting close to a point where we're starting racing again in May. So we want to have the new entrance arm and the new parade ring back available to us for racing for next year. Construction will happen within the hoarding, and you can see as people come racing, and we're now just at the end of April, so in a couple of weeks' time, people will be coming racing, and as they come, they'll begin to see the building actually develop and the roof go on. So we're at Guinea's time now, and you can see that there's significant structure in place. And I think that's important for us as we go through the next year. People begin to see something building from the ground. We can point to the finish line now and make sure that people understand that the future vision is very close, and that's very important for us. So in terms of the structure that you're seeing, there's quite a lot of detail in it, but the roof, which is a key iconic part of the build, is of itself 7,000 square meters. There's 9,000 tons of precast concrete. There will be 22 kilometers of piping, 14,000 square meters of paving. There'll be 4,500 square meters of glazing, that all important opportunity to view both parade ring and also the racing in a very comfortable way. Those of you who visited the Curragh will know the weather changes. We need protection. We need people to enjoy the experience that they're having, and that's really important for us. As we get close to the end, we'll have about 3 months from the end of October to finish off the site, ready then to open in March 2019. And at the peak, the number will be 350 that will be working on the project. As I mentioned, year one was a time of real change for people who are coming, and that's I refer to this year. Organizational change, literally physical change, operational change, emotional change, and experiential change. So next year I think will be a much more positive one for us, point into the future, with real opportunity then to begin to engage as to what we want to do from 2019. So before just talking a little bit about the business aspect, to just mention the stable yard again. I've mentioned that one half, which is the right side, has been completed, restored to former glory, and now we're moving into the second part. If you can imagine that Dermot Weld has a right-of-way right through the area we're going to build now, you can imagine the challenge we have to continue to provide a right-of-way, and Dermot has been incredibly positive in working with us because he wants this as much as anybody else, but we have to disrupt his activity in order to really achieve what we're trying to do. This will be all finished in time for racing next year in May. So I've mentioned what we're trying to do from a physical point of view, but this is far bigger than just a building and matching expectations. For us, we have to really build something which is for the future and change what I suppose Brian referred to, the importance of the Curragh and the importance of what we're trying to achieve. We know a lot about racegoers, and me myself, I'm learning every day. But I think it is very important that we are focused very much on, right now, listening and learning. But we're also very focused on experience and not attendance. We want to understand what's important for people. And that's really the benefit of being present at racing, really understanding what our issues are. We have a restricted capacity, so therefore we need to be very focused in everything that we do, and we're very focused in who we're talking to. We're talking to three sets of audience. They are the racing people, the people who come racing, the professionals, regular racegoers, and then our local community, who are going to be very important to us in our future. In terms of what the Curragh represents, we've referred to its importance to us and its reputation worldwide. We know that we're in a great location in terms of building something and connecting with our local community, but we're also looking to develop our story. We're not just a place of great racing, we're also a place where horses are training every day. We'll also then be diversifying by adding in conferencing, we'll be adding in daily restaurant, we'll be adding in meetings, we'll be adding in a visitor centre. So we look to develop the business so that it can meet all that, but we're not forgetting where we're coming from and what's central to us. And I mentioned that we're not just a great facility, we're not just building a new building, we're actually setting ourselves a much higher goal, and that's for us in Ireland, it's to take flat racing to new heights. It has a challenge. The general view in Ireland of the fan is national hunt and much closer to. We have a job, and that is a big one, but with all of your help, I think the fact that flat racing is connected worldwide is our biggest point of difference and something we'll be looking to develop. Our voice will be about the Curragh. It'll start at the Curragh because the voice that we're going to use of the Curragh has to cater for a lot of the aspects of the business. It's not just racing, it's not just conferencing, it's not just visitor. But we're hoping to tell our stories so people get a better sense of what it is we're trying to do, to be relevant to them and also to give them reasons to care and to come and enjoy the Curragh and enjoy international racing. And the way that we'll do that as well will be reinforced by using images which are from the Curragh, so I can recognise that's the Curragh. They'll be using horse racing from the Curragh, and we're going to use it with a strap line, which is "We are where champions are made." Thank you very much.
Now we'll ask Olivier to take over with Fabrice, and then there will be a Q&A after.
Dear Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. In France, we're still in the morning, not yet in the afternoon. First of all, I do hope you really enjoyed the ARC Day yesterday. I think we've all been very lucky to witness the triumph of such a champion filly. And I'm sure that in 20 years' time, we'll still remember of Enable. I hope you really made the most of your ARC weekend at Chantilly as well, because I can now definitely confirm that the ARC will be back to Longchamp next year, hopefully with Enable trying to defend her crown in the new Longchamp. Thank you, Chairman, for being given the opportunity to say a few words about the redevelopment of Longchamp. This is such a massive project that there is a lot to say, of course. We won't get in all the details of this new racecourse, but Fabrice, Favetto, Bon, and I wanted to stress today on how a new racecourse of that caliber is expected to create further value for the French racing and breeding industry. Longchamp, as you know, has been our flagship racecourse for decades. Just a few facts to remind you of how big Longchamp is for the French racing and breeding. Longchamp hosts 17 Group 1 races out of the 28 that we have in the French program, so it's quite big. And Longchamp is, of course, the stage of the renowned Qatar Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe among more than 40 group races. Longchamp also has a huge weight in the industry's economics. With only 5% of the races, Longchamp's betting of track and non-track account for 10% of the total. And 20% of the flat prize money distributed in France goes to Longchamp's races. Now, from a sporting point of view, there is no doubt that the breed has been shaped on this unique track. Many of the great horses of the last decades have produced their best performance on this unique track. Some like Monjeu, Urban Sea, or Gold River, to name just a few, have then left a long-lasting influence on the stud book. Longchamp is a huge project for the industry, at a time when it faces many challenges. French racing is, as you know, highly dependent on the betting, maybe more than other racing countries. 90% of our revenues come from the PMU's net profit. Both France Gallo and Le Trot control the PMU, which still holds above 98% of the market. The PMU serves its shareholders an approximate 800 million euros per every year, which looks like quite a sound and healthy model, which has enabled us to distribute yearly about 280 million worth of prize money over the last years. But the environment has dramatically changed since 2010, and there is a few more clouds above our heads today. Since the opening of the online betting, sports has taken out a good 1 billion from the horse racing betting turnover. That results in a pretty sharp decline in the revenues for France Gallo. So in that context, the revamp of Longchamp, which will cost around 140 million euros, might look like a little bit like a bold move. But we've always seen it as a no-miss, because no company can regain clients on growth if it doesn't invest in the future. So as you can see, no possible failure. The new Longchamp must, not might, nor could, or shall, or whatever. No, it must contribute to the rebound of French racing in multiple ways. Longchamp must attract new audiences, more new owners, more partners and sponsors. It must help increase the betting turnover, obviously, and it must also enable us to enhance the rating for our major races. Before letting Fabrice detail our business objectives and strategic plan, I also wish to share with you the top lines of the architectural side of the project. Longchamp was last redeveloped in the early 60s. The new Longchamp will be very different in many ways and relies on a few strong parti pris from Dominique Perrault, one of the most renowned French architects, who designed the new racecourse. As pictures tell more than words, I invite you to watch this short video now. So to summarize, there are 4 distinctive pillars that are expected to make the racing experience at Longchamp quite different from what it was, and obviously, hopefully, even better. First is greenness. Longchamp will be a green bubble only 10 minutes away from l'Arc de Triomphe. Grass surfaces have been multiplied by 3. The number of trees is up by 20%. That's a very important part of the project. Then, a more spectacular view of the track. I should have even started with this one, because all studies show that more than the comfort of the seats or anything else, the most important for people attending a sports event is the view on the show. An optimized traffic flow to make people's life easier, from punters to owners. And the one-size-fits-all concept, a racecourse designed to accommodate 20,000 people, 25,000 people in the best conditions, but which can easily adjust up to 60,000 people for bigger race days. So that's a way to create a good atmosphere, whatever the size of the attendance, and that's quite important because from an ARC day to a normal day, there can be quite a big discrepancy. So this is what I'm committed to delivering to the man right next to me. He'll be the one in charge of making the most of this well-thought and well-designed race course, and he'll now explain what we plan to achieve at Longchamp in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivier, for the pass and for the hard and excited challenge. Dear Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in order to express the vision of what could be the success of French racing thanks to Longchamp, I've played a little game. I have selected a small and unknown racing newspaper and tried to imagine what could be, in 5 years' time, the French cover page of a French success. That in itself could be delightful coming from an English media. Longchamp has made French racing cool again. Cool, but you're wondering, why is it talking about being cool? Where is the point? Did you know that 80% of French people aged more than 15 years old have no opinion concerning racing? This is why it is so important to be cool, to be seen as a cool sport and entertainment universe means that you have managed to break the indifference wall, and that you have also managed to trigger a positive image rather than the oldie image we can convey. And we desperately need that to recruit new owners, to transform sport punters into racing punters, to gather more people on our race courses, and to attract new sponsors. So how do we do it? That's the main question, involving many answers, with two main levers for action. The first lever is boosting the sport dimension, and the second one is using our flagship, the new Longchamp. So the first lever concerns with our product, racing. Racing is considered a sport by insiders, but much less by the public. So how could we improve our product, racing, by boosting its sporting dimension? We need to learn from best practices and codes of professional sports, creating an understandable story with a readable championship. By that I mean creating and developing public interest through a series of rendezvous where performance can be followed and understood by a growing number of people of all backgrounds and ages. That is our aim in the EPIC series project, which has been on track for the past 18 months, by gathering the 7 best races of the season in a championship. We need to learn from best practices by developing a storytelling about the actors, horses, jockeys, trainers, and owners, promoting them and involving them so that the public can get to know them and want to follow them. And finally, we have to promote this championship through TV, broadcast, and digital media. We have already signed a broadcasting and promotion deal with TF1 Group, the French media and TV leader, and TF1 broadcasts all 7 races in the Epic Series, including, of course, the Qatar Prix l'Arc de Triomphe yesterday. By using the sport trigger, we focus on this guy, Julien. He's 32, he's a sport fan, he's a sport magazine reader, he's a sports punter, but he doesn't know much about racing, actually. He's a football fan, for instance, but he's quite interesting in rugby, Formula One. He could be interesting in other sports, racing in our case, but only if he understands how it works. Who are the champions? In order to be able to follow them, to go to the race course and bet on them. That was our first lever, but let's now focus on the second one, our flagship, the new Longchamp. So how will Longchamp help us to become cool again? By creating a Parisian racing and lifestyle destination 365 days a year, targeting this guy. This is Frank. He's an Epicurean and sportsman. He's 40, he owns an apartment in Paris. He has a good job in finance. He's married with 2 kids. He's highly digital and connected. Why him? Because he lives near Longchamp in a suburban area with high living standards. He strongly desires this kind of place and experiences I'm going to describe later on. Because he is an opinion leader and a prescriber, able to gather people among him. And because he likes winning, he likes having fun, he likes shining, he likes entering an exclusive world, building relationships, and making friends, what could he become? A potential racehorse owner in a racing syndicate at first, and later on his own. Frank is definitely the guy we want to catch and attract in Longchamp. We will do that by a combination of permanent and event activities based on 5 pillars. Of course, racing in the center, catering, entertainment, sports, and event planning solutions. The first pillar is racing. We will offer great races at Longchamp, as it has always been, with more than 35 race days a year, yes. We will also offer new races, new fixtures, like twilight races, for instance. We will mix on Thursday evenings, starting mid-May till mid-July, racing, chill, entertainment, food court, beverage, and music, to create a place for a new audience. We're also in an era of technology, of data, and we can't, concerning Longchamp, skip our deep change in our habits. So, thanks to that, we have to provide an enhanced experience to our customers. New technology to boost bettings, like a large amount of betting terminals and mobile betting systems, with more than 150 terminals in the new Longchamp, and more than 400 screens in the new Longchamp. It will give you the ability to bet wherever you are. Digital services backed by an high-density Wi-Fi networks to give you real-time info on what's going on at Longchamp while you are within the race course. And of course, we don't forget our key customers, owners, trainers, and so on. Longchamp will provide them with a large choice of services, winning, dining, tailored hospitalities according to the number of guests. And by the way, we're really proud to tell you that our hospitality program was a great success, as our 75 boxes and our 16 skyboxes are already sold out for the next years. The second pillar is catering. Longchamp has to become a reference and a place where people know that they will enjoy a great lunch or dinner, watching horse race, and on a permanent way, 365 days a year. They can also have a drink with in front of them a great panoramic view on the track, the Eiffel Tower, or behind the Parade Ring and La Défense skyline. We are working on an attractive wining and dining offer powered by a famous chef. And the third pillar is entertainment. Longchamp has always been the home of great entertainment. It welcomed the Rolling Stones, the Pope, and more recently Lollapalooza Music Festival or Download Festival. Do you know, by the way, who gathered the biggest audience? It was the Pope, of course, with more or less 1 million people in Longchamp 20 years ago. We will keep on welcoming those great events, creating synergies with them in terms of marketing, especially data marketing, but we will also target trendy ones like huge parties and drone competitions, for instance. The fourth pillar is sport. Longchamp is a home of sports, and we are lucky to have a great place inside a race course, offering a wide space to develop other sports activities. Cycling and golf will be some of the sports that people will be able to practice every day in Longchamp. Our golf club, which already exists, gathered more than 200,000 people a year in the central lawn. And I'm quite sure Frank is among them. So let's talk to him and make him go to races. The last pillar is event planning solutions. As you know, Paris is a fantastic place for meetings, incentive conventions, and events, with a global turnover of 3.2 billion euros a year on this activity. Longchamp is so atypical and exceptional as a place to organize events that we are quite confident on our ability to welcome more than 100 events a year, generating a turnover of 2.3 million euros a year. And finally, let me introduce you to our new branding, helping us to promote the concept of a racing and lifestyle destination, Paris-Longchamp. And to finish this presentation, please allow me to tell you about our organization to reach this goal. As you know, France Gallo is an old and respectable lady. It has demonstrated during all these years excellence in breeding standards improvement and in organizing and promoting racing. But in a continuously evolving world, we need to develop our agility, to be more innovative. Therefore, these are some activities we prefer to develop in partnerships, rather than 100% internally. That is the reason why we have decided to co-produce these activities with a specialist of catering, events, lifestyle and entertainment in exceptional location. The bid is under progress to create a joint venture to run this business, and our partner will be designated within the end of the year. We are quite in a hurry on that. The whole project itself is a race against the clock, to be honest. But we will be ready, as you see on the screen, by the 8th April 2018 for soft launching with the Prix OCAR, but the official opening ceremony will be held on the 29th of April with the Prix Gannet. So I definitely hope that you will be, all of you, among us next year for the opening ceremony. And thank you for your attention. Olivier and I will be glad to answer your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Fabrice. Just to say, if you're looking for Frank, he's down there in the third last row, and he knows more about rebuilding racecourses than anyone up at this stage. Frank Gabriel will tell us everything about rebuilding Meydan. Maybe just a couple of questions, Olivier, if I could ask you. It's a fantastic presentation. Will you change the race program at Longchamp to any significant degree when it's reopened? And allied to that, did you look or consider the possibility of putting an all-weather track in as part of the redevelopment?
There will not be dramatic changes in the program. As I told, Longchamp already used to gather the best of the racers, most of them. So all will be back to Longchamp. There might be some minor changes, but I would say that the most significant change we would like to implement is to create some new kinds of fixtures to attract new people. And this is all about twilight races, or how we could be more entertaining on Sundays afternoon for the general public. So I would say the change should be more on the way we operate racing for the public, for the various audiences, than the pattern races themselves. And regarding your question about the all-weather, it's a question that has been under consideration for a couple of years. That has never been part of the project, so that's still an open question, but we already have an all-weather track at Chantilly. We've got one in Deauville, and there is no much room to really inflate the number of races in our racing calendar today. So it is not that obvious that we really need another all-weather track.
Yeah, and the difficulty obviously is, it's one thing putting the track in, then you have to finance the fixtures that go with that, which is a difficulty. And just one other question, in terms of the track itself, is any work done on the racetrack itself in Longchamp while it's been closed?
Yes, we took the opportunity to have these 2 years off to do some works on the drainage.
Okay.
So that was one area of concern on that track, so it will be much improved on the track itself.
Okay. Derek, perhaps maybe just to direct a question at you in terms of coming at racing from an outside perspective, and you've bitten off maybe more than we told you at the interview in terms of running race meetings while we're constructing the new stand. What are your perceptions of the challenges facing racing in terms of its position in the current digital age, and touching on some of the points that Fabrice has made?
Yeah, I think Fabrice and Olivier have covered the spectrum of the challenges that exist, and I don't think they're any different. I suppose for me that top of the pile is the need not just to innovate, which is what we talked about, but to really put the customer at the top of every conversation that we have, that every meeting is considering the needs of the customer. And I think that's even maybe it's refreshing the way we're thinking, the people that we're bringing in. I mean, you know, Fabrice has an experience in other sports as well, and it's thinking of new ideas to engage, I think that the sport of horse racing has so much more than many other sports, but in other ways, other sports are so far ahead in terms of engaging and, you know, to use Fabrice's word, cool, to be relevant and to connect. I think that is something that it's not that it doesn't exist, but I think it's bringing people. It's to touch on the stark statistics that a young audience don't appreciate or don't really have knowledge of horse racing. And I think we understand that as part of the challenge. But I think Fabrice has captured it, but in short, I think it's our focus.
Okay, Olivier, at this stage, what things are keeping you awake at night time about Longchamp? Are you on target, on budget?
I don't sleep much at night because of Longchamp, so I really look forward to the reopening on April the 8th. The contractor will give us the keys of the Longchamp because we are not at home at Longchamp at the moment. It's still his place in mid-December. And then we'll still have a bit of work to do to get ready for the reopening in April the 8th. And probably the most challenging side of the few months ahead, most challenging side of the work to be done is in the hands of Fabrice, especially get ready with the restaurants and all the services that we need to offer to all our clients.
Yeah, I mean, we say that building the building is the easy part. It's building the business is going to be the real challenge. You know, to some extent, you know, that's where the real hard work starts. Okay, is there anyone in the audience who wants to raise any point or any questions to ask, observations? Sorry, the president of France Gallows just confirmed they are on budget. Jim.
Thank you, all of you, for an excellent presentation on both regards. They're very impressive physical buildings, and I wish you all the luck as you open them. Having, at least in the United States, in the last 20 years, really beginning with the rebuilding of one baseball park in Baltimore, we've had a renaissance of physical structures being rebuilt. And more recently, there's been a lot more investment in the digital areas in those buildings, the sharing of information, creating much easier paths for social networking, and also improving the ability for fans that are not there to experience the event. Can you tell us a little bit about the investments you're making in the digital sense, in the informational sense, for fans on track as well as perhaps off?
First of all, it starts with the facilities itself. So from the time we designed the project and today we have pretty much strengthened that side of the project, starting with the Wi-Fi, because if you don't get a proper Wi-Fi connection or 4G indoor, then you cannot really create a good digital experience, and all the young people who will be coming will not have access well enough to social networks. So that's the first key element. Then we'll obviously launch a web app for racegoers going to Longchamp on that day. I wouldn't like it to be too much sophisticated, full of options everywhere, and because people are quickly a little bit lost with something which is too complicated. And racing itself and a day at the races can be already quite complex to understand for people. So in my opinion, the whole idea is to make a web app that will really help people and first-time goers understand how it works, what's going on the racetrack, where is it happening, when is the next race, where are the horses, go to the mounting yard to see and select your favorites. In 2 minutes, they are going to the track and the race will start in 5 minutes. We need to guide people so that they better understand the show and they will be more keen to come again. So, in conclusion, I would say we'll try not to get lost in too complex things. but making very straightforward and helpful for people.
And from the Curragh, we are coming from a long way back in terms of understanding who our customers is. So our first focus will be to establish a network which will allow us to communicate with that community and build our relationship with them. So we have a big job to do just to organize that, and then to encourage, to educate, to inform as to what we're trying to do with the business. We have the benefit of participating in a project which is driven by HRI, which is to provide better infrastructure. We have the benefit, as we look at the opportunity to build, to improve our cabling, to improve our positioning. So we get the infrastructure right, and that's a big part of our focus right now. But clearly, as we go to prepare for the business for racing, we will be thinking a lot more. I think Olivia is correct. There are so many things you can do, but I think we need to be simple. You know, yesterday I was walking around Chantilly and I noticed the countdown clock that exists in the stable yard area, just to inform people. And I think it's using little signals like that to take people around the course. I think these type of ideas can really be incorporated. So I think lots of innovation. Let's think cool. But I think looking at both, and clearly, you know, I appreciate your comments on our presentation. But as I look at Longchamp, I think two fantastic investments, two fantastic venues. I think internationally, we can all be very positive about what that's going to do for racing in Europe and beyond. Great, thank you.
Winfried.
I think, thank you for the very impressive presentation, and I think obviously the facilities look magnificent. I think it would be interesting to see how you see, for holistic customer experience, the wagering experience is a key experience too. How you, in an environment where you don't have a pari-mutuel environment, how you try to get data which are relevant from a wagering experience and to create an atmosphere for the customers. And the same in a way comes now with a pari-mutuel experience like the PMU, how you connect with your preferred betting operator to create a database which is rich and enable you to create a holistic customer experience from the entertainment and getting younger people familiarized with the sport, and how you link this back with the business revenue, because the main revenue, the value creation, will not be in F&B. The main value creation in the end has to go back to the industry as wagering.
I think it's a real challenge you've put your finger on. There are many owners and many interested parties in that data. It may well be and probably will be a collaborative approach as we see it, but you know, as we sit in our position where we have the tote and we have betting partners, you know, Fabrice mentioned golf club members who would be a suitable opportunity to speak to. Can I actually get the data to speak to these people? It's, you know, as we know, there's a regulatory cloud that's coming in next year, which will make us all ask the questions. And sometimes having to ask the questions perhaps will bring us the opportunities to provide ways to collaborate. But I certainly don't have the answers, but I do recognize it's a very important part of our future.
Brian,
Sorry, Louis.
are you on budget?
Yes, we are. I'm glad to say. Well, we're on time. The objective we have is to try and do the entire development without any debt. We've been greatly assisted by the founder investors who've been great supporters, so it will be funded on a 50-50 basis. At the moment, I'm pleased to say the project is fully funded, and we're looking good to be able to do it with a minimum of debt, if any at all. So, yeah, the budget is 72 million. I will be in front of the Irish Parliament if we don't deliver it on that budget.
Is the distance from Dublin a challenge for you?
Not really. The road network is good. I think the Curragh has got disconnected from its Dublin customer base, and I think that's an area to reconnect again. But our research would show that the vast majority of race meetings around the country in Ireland are supported by their local hinterland mainly. So I think the Curragh has two challenges. It's to reconnect with its local Kildare heartland, and it's to, again, taking Fabrice's, perhaps become cool for Dublin people to go down racing in the Curragh again. That was the case, particularly when Budweiser were sponsoring the Irish Derby. It was a big social event. That has been lost somewhat, as you can see yourself. When the facilities are not good,
it's very difficult to look cool in that sort of environment. So I think that is a big challenge. But distance from Dublin, it's a 30-minute drive, Louis. It's okay. Anyone else? Okay.
Okay, so now we'll move to lunch. Thank you. We can give them a round of applause. Our keynote panel.